want to know how that discussion of the original AKB48 got to 48. Some guy was like 20, and the guy was like, more. And they were like, 30.
Yeah.
More. 40. Sir. More. Like
50. That's too much.
Yeah.
50 is too much.
It's too many. I just want to know why 48?
It's so fucking. I'm sure there's some
this
reason.
This is one thing I never understood about idol groups that were that big. You know, like up to like, let's say 8 is like pushing it for me. 10 is like the maximum to how many I can like reasonably follow along with. I'm just trying to think of like.
I feel K-pop groups got it the best, where it's like they limit it to between like 5 and 15. Like I think that's like a manageable size. Even 15.
Even 15. Yeah, 5.
Yeah, but like 5 to 10 is like a manageable size. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know why I view. I don't know why my mind has made this distinction, but I view like K-pop bands, I suppose, very differently to how I view idols. I guess. Well, I guess they are kind of different.
I mean, they are idols.
Yeah, they are idols, but I guess the way that they market themselves is very different, right? Whereas
Is it though? Do they?
in a weird sense, I think K-pop groups almost are. I think they, again, this is me talking out my ass. Somebody doesn't consume either of them.
Yeah.
In my head, I feel like, whereas the idols focus on, I suppose, catering to the customer and interacting with the customer directly, K-pop groups tend to focus more on releasing music and having kind of, I don't know, in my head, it's just, I guess I see it as like, because idols, most idols, it's all about the fan meetups. It's all about the handshake things, you know, whereas it feels like the K-pop groups are more like, yeah, I'll be a fan, but it's mainly you consume it and interact with it through all of the media they release.
I disagree, because
I could be wrong. Again,
Yeah.
this is the perspective of a man who's talking out of his ass. He doesn't consume either.
I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable on either, but I know for a fact that like in Japan at least, you know, like when we think of like Japanese idols, right? Like AKB48 is usually the first one, like just large groups of like Japanese girls all dressed the same, you know, interacting with fans, like, you know, if it's like the underground idol scene and stuff like that. But like Japan also has a massive male idol culture as well. Like there are so many fucking super groups of like just dudes who are doing basically like, you know, boy band shit, like, you know, Backstreet Boys type stuff, right? And it's like, and a lot of that underground scene is, from the most part, it's majoritarily filled with like all female groups. But there's also some like highly dedicated like male groups as well that do the same thing. I think it's just that there's because that whole like underground scene of like the all girl groups has just been so well documented compared to the male counterpart.
Maybe that's it.
That I think a lot of people just aren't aware that there's male equivalents of it as well.
So many documentaries about the idol industry.
Exactly, and they're all based around like the female groups, right?
Yeah. I remember there was one that released where it was like, they were interviewing people who are fans of underground idol groups, and there was one where it was like, I guess the mum was getting her like 12-year-old daughter to be an idol.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. And then there was like a bunch of 40-year-old dudes who were like paying to have Zoom calls with her.
Yeah.
And the mom was cool with it. It was fucking weird.
Yeah.
It was like, it was just so bizarre. And there was like, she would do live streams on some, I don't know, some weird website. It wasn't like any of the mainstream ones. And she would get like 1,000 viewers. And she was like 13.
Yeah,
and I was
think
like, this is weird.
I actually
so
do
weird.
remember there is an app in Japan or a
It's
website
for idols to go on, right?
that's specifically for, I think it's called Ichinana or something.
Yeah, it was like one of those where you can like, and you just like, you watch them and you have to like keep paying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically like cam girling, except they're not like doing sexual
literally
stuff.
just
They're
talk.
just like talking, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But like
it
you
was
can
just
tip
weird.
to like have conversations with them live, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, I mean, it's parasocial as fuck, but it's also just like a little creepy.
I mean,
I'm the one to judge people who want to stream and make money because that's what I fucking
my
do.
opinion, it's a bit creepy.
Yeah. I think it's like, you know, it'd be hypocritical of me to be like, man, look at these people going online and asking for money from people. Because you know, it's actually what I fucking do. Although, please don't fucking give me money.
Thanks, patrons. Thank you, patrons. But I feel like the creepiness when it because I
It's
feel
like when you see a 12-year-old fucking doing it and the mum's encouraging.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's-
go on.
I mean,
Sorry.
we've seen that on like YouTube as well. You know, some parents
Parent
definitely,
YouTube channels,
are definitely
Yeah.
like shilling their kid. Which,
But I guess it's because you in this documentary, the one that was on YouTube, and I can't remember who did it. It was one of the journalists. It was like they would go and interview the dudes who were consuming it, which were like 50-year-old men.
Yeah.
And then that's where you're like, You know, because if it's a kid, you like Ryan's toy reviews where other kids are watching.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
okay, there's still got to be some kind of questionable thing. What's going on here with the parents? How are they involved? Is it being run in a way that is fair to the kid? You know, yada. Is the money going to the kid or not? All those questions need to be answered, obviously. But it's like fine. Yeah, I mean, obviously you would want kids to be within kids content because it helps, that's them.
Yeah.
They want to be represented. They don't give a fuck. They just want to see other kids living cool lives because that's swag. But the fact that if 50-year-old men were consuming it, and you'd see this dude on like a Zoom call with like this girl, and she's like 12, and you're like, why?
Yeah, on
What
the
is
surface, it is the
this?
most morally questionable thing that you could ever see.
It's
right?
fucking
It's
weird.
Even though he may be, he may go into it just completely fucking innocent, right? On all circumstances, right? Fair enough, but still, when you just look at it at the surface, your first instinct is what's going on.
There's absolutely no need for a 50-year-old man to be interacting with a kid in any way that is not like a professional, like a doctor or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If you were just hanging out with kids and you're paying to hang out with kids,
I'm definitely going to be on a watch list.
What the fuck? What the hell?
You would be on a watch list on any other country.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just find I've always found the psychology of the idol industry fascinating, especially
it's wild
watching these documentaries, because a lot of the times you come in, you're like, oh, anyone, if you're a 50-year-old businessman watching this kind of stuff, then obviously there's something nefarious going on. And I would say from most of the documentaries I've seen, a lot of these people, it's more of just they are just lonely, and it's kind of they have a sad story,
with the adult idols.
Yeah,
right?
with the adult idol fans.
I was like,
okay, with the adult idol fans. Sorry,
I was gonna say, I was like, all right, if you're lonely, don't talk to a fucking 12-year-old. Let the 12-year-olds talk to the other 12-year-olds. Come on.
Yeah.
It's to me, I find it really interesting to see what kind of psychology goes into how someone really, really gets, honestly, kind of addicted to this kind of content.
It's total loneliness, and I think there's a lot of conversation online about male loneliness, but the problem is a lot of the time it gets hijacked by incels and very right-wing conversations. So a lot of the times it's kind of hard to talk about, but I do think a lot of dudes out there are very lonely.
Yeah.
And guys aren't good at expressing their emotions or talking about it. So it's very hard for them to kind of open up and kind of learn about themselves more and know how to express yourself. So I think a lot of guys turn to things at least in Japan, where it's even compounded even more, I think. From, the moment you leave high school, you don't really get pushed to socialize much. I think there's that compounding lifelong loneliness that when you get to this age, you're I have disposable income. A cute girl can talk to me who's very talented, and I can feel like we're friends. And of course, this is going to happen, especially when people are marketing and telling you, hey, this isn't weird. Look at all the other dudes who are doing this. You know what I mean? So it's kind of this whole thing that's compounding just from Japanese society, and I feel like it's happening slowly in the kind of Western world, but more with other services.
Do you think maybe that aspect is the reason why, say in Southeast Asia, the whole fucking existence of BNK48 and JKT48? Do you think maybe it's an Asian thing?
I think yes. I think definitely in terms of just opening up and talking about your feelings, especially in Thailand. When I was growing up, mental health issues just weren't really a thing.
They weren't in the UK until I was 10.
Exactly, and even now, it's still. I would argue that it's still, especially in our parents' generation. People in the West may have been more aware and may have heard about it more, but it feels at least in Thai culture and Asian culture, it's not really talked about at all. And there are some things that you come across in, let's say, Asian family gatherings that that are just kind of normalized. It's kind of normalized in Asian culture. You go to a family gathering and whatever weight you are, you better be prepared for your in-laws and your family to talk about your weight, whether you're too thin or you're too fat. And you are never the perfect weight. You are either too thin.
Goldilocks does not exist.
Exactly. It doesn't matter.
Too little, too much.
It doesn't matter if you're fucking ripped as shit. You've been going to the gym every day. They're like, yo, have you been carb loading? I feel like you've been carb loading a little too much recently.
They will find any way to not compliment you.
Yeah. And the thing is, the only way to solve that issue is to eat more. Yeah. I don't know what it is about, even if they say that you're overweight as shit, they'll say you're overweight in the same sentence where they tell you to eat like 10 dishes that they've cooked for you. I don't know why. The psychology. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I just don't see that whole idol thing existing outside of Asian countries. Like, could you imagine a fucking LND 48 in London or like a CRD 48 in Cardiff? Like, it's just never gonna happen. Although it would be kind of epic.
I think it's like that doesn't. I don't know why. I think that just doesn't gel well with the Western mindset. Of like that's how they kind of get rid of that loneliness. I don't think that's how they do it. But then we have stuff like OnlyFans and stuff that a lot of guys turn to.
Yeah,
that's
and VTubing. You know,
yeah,
that's another one. Streamers just in general, I think.
Yeah,
but I think even then, like the way that the Japanese VTubing set up to Western VTubing is very, very different.
I think
so.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think at least the way the audience approach it.
Yeah, I think the big difference between East and West in this kind of sense is that I feel like idols and let's say OnlyFans streamers and all that kind of stuff. They both kind of sell a similar product, right? Yeah. It's like the kind of like parasocial kind of thing where you feel like you have a connection with that person or with that streamer.
Yeah.
I just feel like with idols, it's just a bit more in your face. And I feel like the big difference is that, at least in the West, people don't want to feel like they're being sold something.
Yeah, they don't want to feel like a fan. They want to feel like a friend.
Yeah.
And so I think when they're sold a fan experience, it doesn't. At least with some people, I don't think it resonates as widely as it would in Japan.
And there needs to be that natural feeling of like self-discovery.
We're mates.
Yeah.
Mates,
it's
right?
just like, I wasn't sold this. I made the conscious choice to be like, oh, okay. I discovered them for myself. And then you slowly spiral down into that rabbit hole. Whereas with idols, it's like front and center. Here are the girls. They can be your friends, okay? If you just pay the money, they will be your friends. They will shake your hands, all right?
And then Japanese people are like, it's that easy? Okay.
Well, yeah, it's like,
okay.
It's like, you can, and if you keep buying their albums, maybe they'll go on a lunch date with you, something like that. You know what I mean? It's like,
that's true.
It is, it's a lot of the times, and it's the same thing with like girls' bars, right? Like dudes will go to the same bar in the hopes that they might, they've paid enough money at one point to hopefully get a date.
I also almost feel like, at least in the West, the whole idea of like boy bands and like idol groups and stuff like that is kind of like a past thing. Like, cause like,
I don't know. I feel like K-pop has really they've kind of
the
like
void,
modernized it. I feel like Western boy bands and girl bands have kind of,
I mean, the last one I could think of was like Backstreet Boys or like NSYNC, and that was like fucking 20 plus years ago, right? So it's like since then the West hasn't really adopted that style, at least in like the music scene.
It's just because K-pop. Yeah, go.
Go.
I just feel like it's because K-pop is just so fucking dominant now. No one can do it as well as they can.
That's true.
I also think that you have to look at the landscape of agencies and contracts. Like in Korea, it's still a lot. And Asia in general, the contracts normally are very heavily favored in the producer or the person making the group or
you can say this
shit. Whereas over the years, especially in places like California and stuff like that, like contracts have become very, very documented that there used to be a lot of abuse, right? So nowadays you kind of can't make these contracts that are all very one-sided, and you can't force the talent to do a bunch of stuff they didn't agree to. So there's like a realistic, like, do you really think that half of these idol groups or bands would perform as much if they didn't have a producer who had a lot of the power kind of pushing them to do more, right? Like realistically, there'd probably be less.
Because did you hear about like the Backstreet Boys contract that they were on?
It's probably,
do you know like Backstreet Boys, right? Like easily one of the most fucking popular Western boy bands of all time. Do you know how much money they walked away with when they disbanded?
I don't know how much.
100K.
What?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like that's crazy. And then
Because their
there's kinda-
contracts were so shit. They sold that many songs. The like most well-known boy band walked away with 100K.
Yeah, that
That's
should never
insane.
happen.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I imagine there's something. I'm just speculating that.
Yeah.
I imagine the deals, are always very, very heavily leaning towards way favored for the talent.
Yeah.
Sorry, for the agency.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like in Japan, like MCMs or like agencies for YouTubers, even though it's like a modern thing, like they're still like very heavily skewed towards whoever's running.
Yeah.
Not necessarily not the YouTuber.
Yeah.
Like I think the pretty common one was like for one of the YouTube networks or something here was like 20% for the talent.
It's like 20 or 30% for the talent. Yeah. Which is like egregious.
Yeah.
To give more preference to explanation is what it is normally in the West. It's like tops 10% nowadays.
Yeah.
It used to be 20 you'd hear a lot, but 10 is they're kind of a
10
standard.
for the agency.
Yeah, 10% for
Yeah.
the agency. And
Yeah.
90% for the talent because you're the one making.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're the one who does everything.
Yeah.
So, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a big change is that back then agencies just had a lot more power. Because,
for sure,
because
yeah.
the internet didn't exist, and now back in the day, there was no way to, if you wanted to be like independent, to get your name out there, because you'd have to rely on these big agencies that had all the marketing power. They were like, we can get you into stores and get you in people's radars. Where now you can have a song go viral, anything like a video go viral, and that's your name out. You're now independent. So I feel like it's more power to the artist because the internet. We complain a lot about the internet for a lot of things, but this is one of the good things that's come out of it.
Yeah.